I thought I knew all the problems they had, but I was wrong. We had this software problem. This is the MCAS, but now it turns out now they've grounded the planes. They found another problem.
It's not funny.
They have with the wings that they are prone to crackings, and this is not just the MAX model. This is also some older variants of the 737, and I think part of this is, these types of things actually do happen all the time, but there's just this increased scrutiny on anything to do with Boeing right now, any types of problems that they might have with any of their components. And I think, this is in some ways healthy that we're doing a deep dive in all of Boeing's models, all of their potential factory issues, and putting this all out in the open. I think the question is, what does Boeing ultimately learn from this, and do they in fact make the changes that they need to make in some of their operations to really follow through on this commitment to safety?
Something that's not particularly par for the course is that IATA meeting that they had over in Korea. It sounds like it was pretty rough.
It was, which you should expect at this point. I mean, these airlines just bought these brand new planes. They can't use them. They have to keep them grounded. There's a pretty significant hit to their profit in the hundreds of millions of dollars for a lot of these carriers. And that's, with sort of a shortened timeline for the grounding. If, in fact, it goes to the end of the year, which some airlines are saying they're prepared for at this point, then this could be a lot more catastrophic. But I think what really struck me was the number of airlines that were talking about the passenger trust and whether or not their customers are actually going to feel comfortable getting on these airplanes. That's something I really think Boeing has underestimated. They're not a consumer company. They sell to airlines. They don't really interact directly with the consumer, and I just don't know if they're fully prepared for what that backlash is going to look like. And the airlines are rightly saying, this is Boeing's problem. We don't feel any obligation to be the ones to try to sell this plane to our customers. You've really got to step up here and do some of that sales pitch.
And in theory, you should have the regulatory bodies sort of give that trust. Like if the FAA says it's okay, then it's okay, so you can feel good about it. But that's not the case here, and that is also exacerbating, I feel like, that issue.
Absolutely, where you're having all of these foreign regulators say, you know what, you may feel comfortable in this plane, but we're going to do our own review. We're not so confident in the certification process that is in place in the U.S. You also have the National Transportation Safety Board saying they're doing a deep dive review of the certification process in the U.S., could make some really significant recommendations to change the criteria for getting those planes approved.
Lloyd, does this tell us anything more broad about aviation?
Well, what jumps to my mind is what it means for the whole regulatory backdrop. We've been going through the whole Trump administration, the impulses towards deregulation, let companies regulate themselves, get Washington out of the crosshairs. We've got an important election coming up, and I am just anticipating seeing that regulation angle getting played up a bit more, because you mentioned there's a big issue here with customer trust that's really starting to come out into the limelight. So I feel like this is just going to add to the policy risk that we're facing in the market.
What's the read-through to the industrial companies and Boeing? So, like, if they really have to make big shifts, or if, like, customers are like, we don't want your plane anymore, like, what happens to the guys that supply them?
Well, it obviously has significant ramifications for their revenue and profit goals in the short term. But one of the things I'm wondering about is whether this shifts sort of the power dynamic between Boeing and its suppliers. Because over the past couple of years, it's been a lot about Boeing taking whatever it wants, whether that's cost cuts, whether that's, doing deals in terms of vertically integrating its supply chain. And now I wonder if maybe suppliers take back some of that power. If we're seeing questions about maybe whether or not Boeing should ultimately have that much control over the aerospace market, when you have these questions about whether the FAA was rigorous enough in its reviews, some of these software issues that have come up, is that a good thing for anybody?